The door slammed shut. The metal door slammed shut behind her, and in that split second the world went dark. Amina gasped. She didn't even have time to scream. Something jabbed through the locker's vents from the outside, something sharp and unforgiving, locking her in. She jerked her body forward, but her knees slammed into the steel. No space, no room, no exit. Then silence, thick, cruel, and terrifying. Outside, she could still hear faint laughter, the high-pitched kind that made your bones feel small. Footsteps shuffled away down the hallway. A girl's voice, syrupy with fake concern, said, "Oops, guess we forgot she was in there." More laughter, then nothing, not even the sound of the air conditioner. Just the hollow ringing in her ears and the cold, suffocating smell of old metal and sweat. She was trapped 6 hours earlier. The first thing Amina noticed about Northridge High was how clean it looked on the outside. Wide lawns, neat hedges, American flags snapping proudly in the wind. It almost looked like the kind of place that was safe, but inside, she knew better. She'd been the new girl before. 5 times in 2 years, 5 schools, 5 cities, 5 chances to start over, and everyone had ended the same way. She's weird. She never talks. She thinks she's better than everyone. Amina wasn't any of those things. But when you walk through the halls with skin a shade darker than everyone else, hair braided and tied back in ways they don't understand, and eyes that don't flinch easily, they assume everything for you. Her aunt had said, "Keep your head down and stay out of trouble. Just graduate." Her uncle hadn't said anything, just handed her a brown paper bag for lunch and drove her in silence, fingers tapping the steering wheel like he couldn't wait to get rid of her. She told herself she didn't care, but a part of her wanted this time to be different. A small, quiet part, almost invisible, first warning signs. It started before first period ended. As she walked to her locker, a tall girl with a perfect blonde ponytail, Brielle, stood in the middle of the hall like she owned it. "Watch it," Brielle said, shoulder-checking. Amina as she passed. Amina barely moved, but the other girl snapped her head around. "You think you're tough?" Amina blinked. "I think you're blocking the hallway." Someone behind them laughed nervously. Brielle's eyes narrowed. "Cute. You'll regret that." Second period, someone tripped her on the way to a desk. She fell hard, books flying. Her elbow scraped across the linoleum. No one helped. Then came the lunchroom. Amina moved slowly, scanning the tables. It was her least favorite part of the day. She picked a spot near the edge, away from the noise, opened her bag, pulled out a sandwich, then smack, milk, all over her shirt. Her tray clattered to the floor. "Oh no," Brielle said in mock shock. "Did I do that?" More laughter. Amina stood. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She took off her jacket, revealing the soaked tank top beneath, and stared Brielle down. And for a second, just a second, the bully's smile twitched. She wasn't used to being challenged. The text at 1:17 p.m. while waiting for gym class, Amina's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. We found your necklace." "Equipment room, come now." Her heart skipped. Her mother's silver bird pendant had gone missing during lunch. She hadn't even told anyone. It was the only thing she had left, something her mom gave her before everything fell apart. She clutched her phone, her thumb hovering over the reply button. It could be a trap, but what if it wasn't? She didn't have time to think twice. The setup, the equipment room was behind the gym. Dusty, barely used, stacked with old mats and lockers that hadn't been cleaned since 1999. No cameras, no teachers. She pushed the door open. Dark inside. Light bulb flickering. Shadows dancing across the floor. She stepped in. The door slammed. Before she could turn, someone grabbed her arm, shoved her back. She stumbled, her foot hit something, then hands shoved again, hard. A metallic clang, the feel of cold steel all around her, and she realized too late it wasn't just a prank. They were locking her in. Present. Inside the locker, Amina breathed shallow, trying not to panic. The locker was barely wide enough to... fit her frame. Her knees were jammed against her chest, her neck twisted awkwardly, sweat dripped down her spine, her heart pounded, her stomach flipped, and yet she didn't scream. Not yet. She knew better. She'd screamed before, when her mum overdosed on the living room floor and her cries for help were swallowed by the apartment walls. She'd screamed when child services pulled her away from her home, saying she'd be better off. No one had listened then. Why would they now? So she waited, plotted, breathe, count, think. Then something moved outside, a shadow. She froze. The locker creaked slightly. Then a voice, low, unfamiliar, male. "I told them not to mess with you," it whispered. Her body went rigid. "I told them, but now it's too late." She pressed her ear against the metal, but whoever it was gone. Footsteps faded. The memories. They didn't know. They didn't know how she survived sleeping in bus stations when her uncle forgot to pick her up. They didn't know how she'd learned to stitch her own wounds with thread from her backpack. They didn't know about the bruises hidden under her clothes, not from school, but from family. They thought she was weak, quiet. They had no idea what they'd just locked in. Outside, the mistake in the hallway, Brielle and her two shadows, Kenzie and Harper, high-fived each other. "That was too easy," Harper laughed. "She looked like she was going to cry," Kenzie said. "Pathetic." Brielle smirked but kept glancing back toward the gym. She wasn't sure why, but something about Amina's eyes stayed with her. They didn't flinch, didn't beg, didn't break. "She'll cry eventually," Brielle muttered, walking faster. Inside. The shift. The locker was tighter now. Her legs were asleep. Amina shifted slightly, her ankle throbbing. Her fingers brushed something metal. A pen probably fell from her backpack in the scuffle. Not a weapon, but maybe. She examined the tiny vent at eye level. The screws holding the lock mechanism in place looked old, rusted. She slid the pen's tip into the gap and twisted. Nothing. She closed her eyes, slowed her breathing. Not panic. Pressure. Try again. She twisted harder, a soft click. Not open, yet, but a start. The whisper. Again. She didn't hear the footsteps this time. Just the whisper, right at the vents. "You'll have to decide soon," the voice said, calm, almost gentle. "Decide what?" She whispered back before she could stop herself. Silence. Then, "Whether you're the victim or the revenge." She held her breath, but this time, no footsteps, no shadow, just the creaking sound of the hallway door slowly opening and closing again. Outside, something else. That night, janitor Mr. Ramirez found her, halfway out of the locker, soaked in. Sweat bruised, but eyes steady, burning. "You okay?" he asked, stunned. Amina didn't answer. She stood slowly, dusting herself off. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was low and sharp. "Do you have security camera footage?" Mr. Ramirez blinked. "What?" From the gym hallway. He hesitated, then nodded. Amina looked up at him. "I need a copy." Back home, her aunt was arguing with her boyfriend again. Her uncle wasn't home. Nobody asked where she'd been. She walked straight to her room, shut the door, and sat on the bed. Her arms were scraped, her knuckles raw. She opened her backpack, removed a crumpled photo, her mother holding her at age 5, both of them laughing, sun in their faces. She laid it on her lap, and then, slowly, deliberately, she began to plan. The files. She shouldn't have found Amina sat at the back of the computer lab, eyes fixed on the monitor, earbuds in, pretending to work on a class project. The buzz of other students filled the air, typing, whispering, the occasional chuckle, but none of it touched her. All she saw was the footage. She'd waited 2 days for Mr. Ramirez to accidentally drop the flash drive in the hallway. Outside her locker. "Don't tell anyone I gave it to you," he'd said in a hushed voice. "What they did, it ain't just bullying, it's cruelty. And it's happened before." That part chilled her more than anything. Before? Now, on the screen, Amina watched the moment she entered the gym hallway. The timestamp read 1:24 p.m. She pushed the equipment room door open. Seconds later, Brielle, Harper, and Kenzie appeared, laughing, shoving something long and metal through the door handles to jam them shut, and then a fourth figure, tall, male, face blurred by the angle. He didn't laugh, didn't move like the others. He just stood near the edge of the hallway, watching. Then he stepped forward, paused by the locker, leaned in close, and whispered something through the vent. Amina's skin prickled as she watched herself frozen inside. That locker, vulnerable, silent. The boy turned, looked directly at the hallway camera, and smiled. At home. The notebook. That night, Amina pulled out her mother's old notebook. She hadn't opened it in over a year. It was mostly blank pages. Some quotes her mom had scribbled in the margins during AA meetings, and one note Amina had always thought was weird. Survival is not enough. You have to turn pain into power. If you don't, someone else will use it for you. It hadn't made sense then. Now it did. She flipped to the last page, pulled a pen from her drawer, and began writing. Brielle, Kenzie, Harper, unknown male, approx. 6th hoodie, white sneakers, scene 1:25 p.m. Hallway C7. Face partially obscured. Motive unclear, not laughing. Whispered through vent, said, I told them not to mess with you. Then disappeared. She paused, then wrote, Why did he help lock me in? But warn me? At school. Shifting eyes. The next day, Amina walked through. The front doors with a different posture, not fearful, focused. She was done being hunted. Now she was hunting. As she passed through the hall, she noticed the change. Students didn't laugh. Some looked away. Others whispered. And a few just stared like they'd seen a ghost. Someone had leaked what happened. Brielle stood by her locker, laughing a little too loudly. Kenzie kept checking her reflection in a locker mirror. Harper twirled a strand of hair, eyes darting. They were scared. Good. The principal's office, Principal Holloway, was a tall man with square glasses and a polished desk with not a single paper out of place. He smiled too easily. We're glad you came forward, Amina, he said, folding his hands. But without direct evidence, it's difficult to move forward. Brielle and her friends deny any wrongdoing. I have video, Amina said, sliding the flash drive across the desk. Holloway's smile twitched. Where did you get this? Does that matter? He hesitated, plugged it in. As he watched the footage, his jaw clenched. His fingers tapped the desk. When it ended, he said nothing for a long moment. Then carefully, Amina, there's something you should know. That equipment room? It's been the center of multiple bullying complaints in the past 2 years. 3 students transferred. One attempted, well, they didn't return. Amina stared. So you knew? I didn't say that. But you did. You just never did anything about it. Principal Holloway stood abruptly. Thank you for coming in. I will be taking disciplinary action. Will you suspend them? That's complicated. She cut him off. Of course it is. She left without another word. The second message, that night she received another text. Meet me by the old football bleachers, 7:30 p.m. Come alone. No number, no name, but she already knew who it was. 30 p.m. Under the bleachers, the sun had just dipped below the tree line when she arrived. The bleachers cast long shadows across the field, and the evening air smelled like grass and rust. A figure leaned against the support beams, hood up, hands in his jacket pockets. He stepped forward. It was the boy from the video, dark hair, pale skin, eyes that flickered between guilt and something unreadable. I didn't help them, he said. I told them not to do it. But you watched, she replied, and you whispered to me after they left. He looked down. I thought they were just going to scare you, not lock you in. You didn't stop them. I was scared. Amina's jaw tightened. What's your name? Ty. She studied him. He couldn't have been more than a junior, maybe 17, slim, wiry. But his eyes haunted. "Why did you come back?" she asked. "Why warn me?" Ty hesitated, then pulled something from his pocket, a folded sheet of paper. He handed it to her. It was a printout. School email logs, and one message jumped out immediately. From B. Hendricksa.northridge.edu to K. Weber.northridge.edu, H. Martina.northridge.edu. Subject, Project Locker. Body. She thinks she's clever. Let's make her disappear. Like, Mia, I'll record this time. Ty said he'll handle sound. We'll use that old vent trick. Friday lunch. Get her phone. Smash it. Amina's stomach dropped. "Mia," she whispered. Ty nodded. "Last year. Same locker. She left school. Never. Came back. Why do you have this? I used to be friends with them. I helped them before. But Mia, she didn't make it out. She tried to overdose after." He rubbed his face, ashamed. "I should have done something, but I was a coward." Amina gripped the paper. "And now I want to make it right." The project begins. Over the next 3 days, Amina worked like a machine. She took screenshots, backed up files, wrote out timelines, cross-referenced security footage. She spoke to a sophomore named Eliza, Mia's best friend, who told her everything. Mia had been locked in for hours. When they finally opened the door, she was unconscious. The school hushed it up. Said she had medical issues, but it was all connected. Same locker, same bullies, same methods. Amina's stomach turned every time she thought about it. They were serial tormentors. And the school had let it happen. The power move it was a Wednesday morning when she made her move. She walked into the cafeteria during first period, plugged her laptop into the projector, and pressed play. The footage began. Brielle, Harper, and Kenzie laughing as they shoved the bar through the door handles. Ty in the background, the whisper, the smirk. Students turned, gasps echoed, teachers rushed in. By the time Holloway got there, it was too late. The video was viral. Within hours, news trucks were parked outside. Parents demanding answers, students posting support. Brielle, Harper, and Kenzie were pulled from class, suspended, probably expelled. Hopefully. But Amina knew one thing. She wasn't done. The last page. That night, she sat alone in her room, the TV buzzing in the background. Her phone buzzed with messages from students she'd never spoken to. "You're a badass," they tried. "The same stuff with me. Thanks for standing up." Mia would be proud. She opened her mother's notebook again and wrote on the last blank page, "They tried to bury me, but they forgot I was a seed." The hidden locker. Midnight, locker 312. Amina's hands trembled slightly as she crept down the dimly lit school hallway. Her hoodie was up, and every step echoed like thunder against the cold tile floor. The janitor's cart was parked near the staff lounge, but the hallway was otherwise deserted. She had no idea who sent the message or what she would find, but when someone says, "I was never found," you go. Locker 312 stood at the far end of the East Wing, long since sealed off after a flood 2 years ago. The hallway smelled like damp concrete and something metallic, old water pipes, rust maybe. She pulled out the flashlight from her pocket and clicked it on. The beam caught something odd. Locker 312 wasn't like the others, while all the other lockers were old grey metal with scratches and stickers. This one was spotless. New. Too new. There was no lock on it, just a keyhole. She frowned. From her back pocket, she pulled out the ring of old master keys she'd borrowed from the AV storage room 3 days ago. She hadn't even known what she was looking for at the time, just preparing. She tried the 4th key. Click. It opened. A rush of cold air hit her face. That didn't make sense. She pulled the locker open slowly and froze. Inside wasn't just a locker. It was hollowed out, a tunnel. The underground room Amina slipped through, dragging the locker door behind her. Her heart hammered in her chest as she crouched and followed the short passageway that led down a few feet. Then, suddenly, open space. It was a room, dusty, forgotten, lit only by a single emergency light glowing red in the corner. On the floor sat boxes, old, half-crushed banker boxes. She brushed the dust off the nearest one. Label, Incident Reports, 2017-2022. She pulled one out. The first folder was labeled Mia C. She opened it. Photos, written statements, doctor's notes, even an email exchange between Principal Holloway and someone named Dr. L. Fenwick, District Psych Services. Amina's fingers flew through the pages. It was all here. The truth. Mia had tried to take her life. Not once, twice, and the school had covered it up. A post-it note was stuck inside. If you're reading this, I hope you finish what I couldn't. Signed with one word, Jax. The real enemy. When Amina returned home, she couldn't sleep. She lay on her bed staring at the ceiling, the name Jax echoing in her mind. She pulled out her laptop and began digging. Jax Coleman transferred out sophomore year. Used to be on the wrestling team. No social media. Nothing since 2022. Gone or buried. She messaged Amina. You ever heard of someone named Jax? Used to be at Northridge. A minute later, Ty. Yeah, he disappeared after some fight incident. Rumors said he had evidence on Holloway. People said he was silenced, like Mia. Amina swallowed hard. Whatever this was, it wasn't just bullying anymore. It was systemic, and people were getting erased. The trap. The next morning, the school was chaos. Amina arrived to find the front gates swarming with reporters. The principal had been placed on temporary leave, and Brielle's father, who sat on the school board, was demanding an internal investigation. But instead of fear, Amina felt fire. She was winning until she opened her locker and found a single sheet of paper. You should have stayed silent. He warned you. Now you'll disappear too. No name, no signature, just a paperclip with a red thread tied around it. She'd seen that before, in one of the files from the hidden room. Jax's file. Whoever sent it wasn't just threatening her. They were part of the cover-up. Facing Brielle that afternoon, Amina found Brielle alone in the art room, ripping sketches out of her portfolio in frustration. She stepped inside quietly. Thought you were suspended. Brielle didn't turn around. Daddy's lawyer said I have a right to education, so I'm here. Congratulations on blowing everything up. You deserve worse, Amina said. Brielle finally looked at her, eyes bloodshot, mouth twisted in anger. You think this is about you. You think you're some kind of hero. I think you helped destroy someone named Mia. Brielle's expression changed for a moment, just a flicker. Then she whispered, You don't know what's really going on here. Amina stepped forward. Then tell me. Brielle swallowed. We weren't the first, she said, voice low. There was a club, years ago, seniors, they ran games. What kind of games? They picked people to target, outsiders, weirdos. They'd vote, choose a locker case. One person would get locked in, another would be the savior. Amina's blood ran cold. Ty was your savior, Brielle added, but he changed his mind. Too late. And Jax? Brielle looked away. He tried to expose it. He had files, told the wrong person. Next thing we knew, he transferred, but we all knew he vanished. Who's still part of it? Brielle looked at her, eyes glassy. If you have to ask, it's already too late. The black thread that night. Another message came, this time slipped under her apartment door. It was a small black envelope with a single black thread inside. Amina recognized it from the file room. It meant one thing, target. She was next. The thread was used during locker games to mark who the next victim would be. But something was wrong. She wasn't afraid. She was furious. They wanted her to be the hunted. She'd become the hunter. Amina's plan. She called Ty, told him everything, the secret room, the red thread, Jax, the club. He listened in silence, then said something that gave her chills. I think my brother was in that club. He was a senior when I was a freshman. Name? Lucas. She remembered the name. Lucas Harper, Harper's cousin, and a former valedictorian now working at the school as a volunteer counselor. He'd helped handle past victims. Ty remembered seeing him in the hallway before Mia's incident. Amina connected the dots. Lucas still had access, he had power, and he knew how to make people disappear. The blackout room. The recording haunted her. Stage 6 confirmed. Prepare the blackout. Target, Amina J. Carter. She replayed it over and over in her headphones, each time hoping she misheard something. But the message stayed the same, cold, methodical, final. She wasn't just a threat, she was now a mission. They were coming. Lights out the next morning, Northridge High looked normal, too normal. The halls bustled with students, teachers grumbled about deadlines, and even Principal Holloway's name was quietly removed from the staff board, replaced with acting head Ms. Gleason. But Amina felt it in the air. Something was off, in every glance that lasted too long, every group that went silent when she passed, every hallway light that flickered out when she walked under it. By third period, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hope your lungs are strong. She froze. A memory hit her like a punch, the sound of Mia gasping for breath in the ambulance. Amina had read the report from the hidden room. It wasn't just trauma, it was asphyxiation. Mia had been locked in a storage closet, vent covered, for hours. Stage 6. They were going to recreate it. A friend turns. She rushed into the media lab and found Ty hunched over his laptop, headphones in, typing fast. We don't have time, she said breathlessly. They're going to try it again. On me, soon. He didn't look up. Ty, she asked, voice rising. He slowly pulled off his headphones. His face looked tired, pale. I know, he said quietly. They told me last night. Her stomach dropped. What? He shut his laptop. They approached me, said they could make everything go away, my brother, my school record, my future, if I just stepped back, let it happen. Are you seriously telling me this like it's a reasonable offer? She asked, backing away. I said no, he said, meeting her eyes. But they'll come for me too. I just wanted you to know I think someone on the school board is involved, maybe more than one. The trap was bigger than she'd thought. Much bigger. The disappearance. After lunch, chaos broke out. A sophomore named Benny went missing. His friends said he left the cafeteria to go to the library. He never showed up. 2 hours later, the school went into lockdown for safety. That evening, parents swarmed the gates, and the next day, Benny reappeared, standing confused at the front office, no memory of where he'd been. Exactly like Jack's, exactly like Mia. And Benny had one thing in his hand, a folded note that read, Stage 5 passed. Next, the final, the anonymous file. That night, Amina received a burner email. Subject, Locker Society. Full list attached. A PDF file titled, The Blackout Club, Members, Methods, Victims. She opened it and gasped, names. Lucas Harper, founder Dr. L. Fenwick, psych evaluation manipulation Brielle's father, funding and legal shield coach Redman, transport and isolation logistics principal Holloway, record suppression Ms. Gleason. Stage supervisor victims were listed too, some with stars. Amina's name was at the bottom, starred twice. A final note in red. If a subject resists 2 stages and gains public sympathy, eliminate quietly. Mark as runaway or transfer. She stared at the screen, fists clenched. She wasn't imagining it. This was a machine, and she was its next target. A secret betrayal. The next day, Ty didn't show up to school. His phone was off. Amina messaged him 10 times. Nothing. She skipped 6th period and went to his house. His mom answered the door, her face tight. He left last night, she said. Said he was going to stay with his cousin for a bit. Did he say why? Amina asked. She shook her head. He looked scared. When Amina turned to leave, something caught her eye. Ty's backpack, half-zipped and abandoned by the couch. He didn't leave willingly. Lucas Harper's office. She had one shot. That evening, Amina snuck into the counselor's office, hidden near the back wing of the gym. Lucas Harper's door was unlocked. Inside, dim light, awards on the wall, and a single laptop open on a desk. She sat down, inserted the USB Ty had given her last week, the one with a program that could bypass passwords. The screen flickered, then opened to a folder titled Stages. Each subfolder was named after a student. Each folder contained videos, notes, psychological profiles. She found hers. Stage 6 scheduled. Location blackout room. Vent control, manual override required. A picture loaded. It wasn't a classroom or a closet. It was a basement under the school. Then something moved in the reflection of the laptop screen. She turned. Lucas stood in the doorway, face to face. "You shouldn't be here," he said calmly, stepping in and closing the door. "I know everything," she snapped. He raised an eyebrow. "Do you? Or do you think you do? You use kids as experiments. You broke them." Lucas smiled faintly. "We observed behavior under pressure, just like they do in elite training programs. Call it unsanctioned education." "You made a girl try to kill herself." He nodded slowly. "She wasn't strong enough. You, on the other hand? Impressive. You made it all the way to stage 6. No one's done that in 3 years. Where's Ty?" she demanded. He paused, then said, "Some people are better as pawns. But don't worry. He won't feel anything by the end." Amina clenched her fists. Lucas tilted his head. "You could walk away, go home. Forget this, let it fade. Or—" He leaned in. "You could join us." She stared at him like he was insane. He smiled again. "I thought not." Then he lunged. Escape through fire. She ducked, grabbed the chair and swung it at his legs. Lucas fell, cursing. She ran out down the hallway, heart pounding. She had one destination, the boiler room. She remembered the blueprint she'd seen in the hidden room. The blackout room was under the boiler. That's how they transported students without cameras. When she reached it, she pulled open the maintenance panel and crawled in. The tunnel was dark and hot. Then she heard something. A voice. "Hello?" She froze. It was Ty. She crawled faster, hands scraping on metal, until she reached a small gate. Behind it, a glass room. No door, just vents. Inside, Ty, groggy, tied to a chair. She pulled the panel loose. "Ty!" He looked up, blinking. "They gave me something." She crawled in and cut the restraints with a piece of jagged metal. Then she heard the vent slam shut behind her, followed by a click, and the lights went out. Blackout begins. The room filled with darkness. No sound, no air. Panic clawed at Amina's throat. She remembered Mia, remembered the file. Vent control. Manual override required. That meant they could kill them if they wanted to. She forced herself to breathe. "Ty," she whispered. "We have to find the override." He pointed, barely conscious, toward the far corner. Amina felt along the wall. Then, a lever. She pulled. Nothing. Then again, harder. A loud bang echoed. Air rushed back in. The emergency light flicked on. They were still alive, but not safe. The wall opposite them began to creak. Someone was opening it. The final rounder figure stepped in. Lucas, again, this time, with 2 masked people behind him. He clapped slowly. "Well done, survival, the rarest stage." Amina moved in front of Ty. Lucas smiled. "You're angry. I get it. But if I let you walk out of here now, what will you really do? Call the police? With what proof? You broke into files. You hacked a school computer. You assaulted me. You kidnapped students," she shot back. He nodded. "Try proving it." "I don't have to," she said. She reached into her pocket and pressed a button on her phone. "Everything's been streaming," she said. "Audio, video, every word since I walked in here, sent to 4 phones off-site." Lucas's face froze. His smile vanished. "Checkmate," she whispered. The betrayer in the Mirror 4 hours later. National news headline, Elite High School. Exposed in underground psychological torture ring. Student victim leaks, shocking evidence. Amina sat on the edge of a hospital bed, hands trembling as she watched her story unfold on every major network. Ty, asleep beside her, was still recovering from sedation. News vans camped outside the school. Parents protested with picket signs. Students spoke out. The world, and it seemed, was finally listening. Lucas Harper was arrested on multiple charges, including unlawful imprisonment, conspiracy to harm minors, and destruction of evidence. Ms. Gleason disappeared. Coach Redman turned himself in, but Amina couldn't. Breathe easy? Not yet, because one folder in Lucas's laptop still haunted her. Stage 0, the initiators, and under it, a name she never expected. Mia Carter, the impossible truth Amina, locked the hospital door and reopened the file from a copy she'd made. Subject, Mia Carter. Role, controlled victim. Phase 1. Background, enrolled with full knowledge of observational experiment, given modified exposure protocol to evoke sympathetic emotional response in peer candidates. Terminated cooperation at Phase 3. She reread it a dozen times. It didn't make sense. Mia was the one who suffered, who screamed in her sleep, who cried about shadows in the walls, but the file painted a twisted picture, one in which Mia had been part of it in the beginning, used, planted, sacrificed, and she had tried to back out, which might be why she ended up nearly dead. But if Mia had been part of the setup, who brought her in? A name blinked in her mind like a fire alarm. Ty, the hidden video 2 days past. Ty got discharged from the hospital. The media flooded him with questions. He deflected all of them. That night, Amina visited him at his apartment. They sat on the balcony under stars that looked far too peaceful for the storm inside her. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Anything," he said, tired. She handed him a phone. The screen showed a hidden video, grainy but clear enough. It was Lucas and Ty in the school basement months ago. Lucas, "She'll survive, but Mia goes first. You understand?" Ty, quiet. "She's my cousin. I didn't sign up for this." Lucas, "You signed up when you took the deal." Ty looked away, ashamed. Lucas, Stage 1, emotional bond. Build it with the new girl, then break her. The video ended. Silence. Ty's hands shook. "He didn't deny it. I didn't know it would go that far," he whispered. "They told me it was just behavioral testing. They said they'd expunge my brother's record, that they'd give me a scholarship." Amina stared at him, tears rising. "So you played me." "I tried to stop it," he choked out. "That night in the room, I chose you. I fought for you. You were sent to me," she snapped. "And you knew about Mia, about everything." "I didn't know they'd try to kill her," he said. She stood up. "I didn't just fight them, Ty. I trusted you." She walked. Out the media twist, the next morning, every news station flipped the narrative. Breaking, victim's closest ally. Was part of the underground operation. Lucas, during questioning, had offered a plea bargain. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he gave them names. Ty's was at the top. Amina watched in disbelief as news anchors dissected Ty's involvement, questioning her judgment and even her story. Suddenly she became suspect. Maybe she was lying, maybe she exaggerated, maybe this was just teenage drama gone too far. The public turned like wolves. The final file. The investigation team called Amina the next day. "We found one more." "Recording," said the lead detective. "We thought you should see it." She sat in their office as they played the final recovered audio. Voice 1, Lucas. "She's not like the others. She's not breaking." Voice 2, unknown female. "Then escalate. Stage 7. Forget sympathy. Use fear." Lucas. "She'll go public." Voice 2. "Then discredit her. Tie her to the boy. Make it messy." Amina clenched her fists. That second voice. It wasn't Miss Gleason. She'd never heard it before, until the detective played a voice comparison clip. It matched Brielle's mother, member of the school board, head of the parent council, owner of the private security firm that ran the campus cameras. She was the true architect. The others were pawns. Brielle breaks down. Amina confronted Brielle at school, the one place she knew the cameras were still being watched by authorities. "Why'd your mother do it?" Amina asked quietly in the hallway. Brielle, pale and shaking, bit her lip. She said kids these days are weak, she whispered. She wanted to weed out the ones who couldn't handle pressure. Said, it would make us better leaders. And what about Mia, Ty, me? She said casualties were inevitable. Amina's voice trembled. And you just went along with it. I didn't want to, Brielle said, tears falling. She controls everything. My school, my life. She said if I ever defied her, I'd end up like my sister. Sister, she was the first test subject. 2 years ago, she disappeared. The pieces clicked. That girl who ran away. She wasn't missing, she was silenced. Final stand. The board tried to cover it up. Claimed the videos were AI-generated. Claimed the student files were fabricated. But this time, Amina had backup. Ty, broken but remorseful, agreed to testify. Brielle, too. Even Coach Redman, now facing 15 years, came clean. Within a week, 5 major arrests were made, including Brielle's mother. The entire Locker Society was dismantled, and for the first time in years, Northridge High opened its gates to the public. Transparent, exposed, empty. Amina's letter. 3 weeks later, Amina stood in front of her new school's student body. She was invited to speak at an anti-bullying awareness seminar, but what she read wasn't a speech, it was a letter. To anyone who's ever felt like they were locked in, unheard, unseen, broken, this is for you. They thought locking me in would silence me. What they didn't know is, that's where I learned to scream. She paused, voice shaking. They thought betrayal would destroy me, but it taught me how to trust myself. They thought I was weak because I cried. But those tears watered the roots of someone they'll never break again. The room erupted in applause. The final twist later that night. Amina sat on her bed, going through old photos. She stopped on one, her and Mia, arms around each other, grinning. The corner of the picture was folded. She unfolded it and saw something chilling in the background. A mirror, a shadow, Lucas Harper. Watching even back then. Her hands trembled. Then she smiled because he was gone and she wasn't. The last lock 6 weeks later. March 2nd time, 3 p.m. Location, Northridge High, auditorium. The once mighty Northridge High sat quieter now. No screaming students, no expensive galas, no sports events with helicopter landings. The walls still stood, but the silence felt like a requiem. Amina took the stage again. This time, not as a survivor, not as a fighter, but as the girl who unlocked the truth. The documentary premiere. The auditorium filled with people, students, journalists, activists, and quiet faces from broken homes. Cameras lined the aisles. Reporters whispered. On screen, the title appeared, Locked In, The Truth Beneath Northridge High. Amina had helped direct every minute of it, compiling student interviews, security footage, hidden phone videos, and voice recordings. But the most powerful moment came at the 47-minute mark, a black screen, and then Mia's voice. They kept telling me I was weak, that my silence was agreement. But I wasn't silent because I agreed. I was silent because I was trying to survive. The auditorium fell dead silent. Then the lights came up, and Amina stepped forward, facing the board. One last time. Amina walked into the meeting of the new interim school board. This wasn't a court. There were no judges. But truth still had to be told. She took a breath and then spoke. You failed us. all of you. Not just the ones who locked the doors, but the ones who kept looking the other way. You let your status blind you to our suffering. You let children hurt children while you chase funding, optics, and control. You thought what happened in that locker room would stay hidden. But the real problem wasn't the secrets, it was the silence. Someone from the board tried to interrupt, but Amina raised a hand. No, you don't get to speak yet. You had years. This is my turn. One of the parents began to cry. Mia's return that evening in a small community center in town. A youth group held a candlelight vigil for those affected. And then a girl walked in, wrapped in a hoodie. Slow, shaky, but standing Mia. Her scars hadn't faded. Her voice was softer now. But her eyes had fire. She looked around the room and saw a crowd stand for her, clapping, crying, applauding survival. Amina reached her first. The hug between them wasn't polite. It was bone deep, desperate, and quiet. I thought I lost you, Amina whispered. I thought I lost myself, Mia said back. Amina's father. 1 week later, Amina visited the prison where her father had been held for years. She hadn't seen him since the day police came. For him, when she was 10, wrongfully imprisoned, framed for a theft he didn't commit. He walked into the visitation room, older, leaner, eyes weary, and froze when he saw her. Hi, Baba, she whispered. He smiled. The same crooked smile she remembered. My lioness, he said. Tears falling. She told him everything about Northridge, the locker, the betrayal, the revenge, the healing. When she finished, her father leaned closer. You were born in a cage, Amina, but you learned to pick locks they didn't know existed. Forgiveness isn't weakness. Ty was sentenced to 6 months of community service and therapy. He asked to see Amina before leaving town. They met at the same rooftop where they used to talk at night. He handed her a small envelope. Inside, an old photo of Mia, Ty, and Amina. A real one. Before the lies, before the orders, before the ruin. I'm sorry, Ty whispered. Amina looked at the photo. I believe you are, she said. She didn't say, I forgive you. But she didn't walk away either. And somehow, that was enough. Brielle's new beginning. Brielle transferred schools, started therapy, and disappeared from social media. One afternoon, Amina received a small brown box. Inside was a note. You made me see her. My sister. I'll never let her name vanish again, thank you. B, and under it, her sister's diary. Page 1 read, If I die in silence, let someone scream for me. National change. The documentary went viral, picked up by multiple platforms, and translated into 10 languages. The locker system was exposed in 2 other elite schools across the country. New laws were introduced. Psychological testing was redefined in schools. Student rights activists named Amina the voice of the locked generation. But Amina didn't care about fame. She cared about the girl watching from her phone at 2 a.m. in another country, silently crying, realizing she wasn't alone. That's who she fought for. Closure. Letter. Amina published a letter on the 1st anniversary of the documentary's release. It read, To every girl who was locked in, I was 16 when they closed the door and turned off the light. He was 16 when they waited for me to scream, and when I didn't, they pushed harder. I didn't survive. Because I was strong. I survived because I broke, and then rebuilt. I survived because someone out there needed to know it was possible, and if that's you, then hear this. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be louder than the silence. Amina. Final scene. 1 year later, Amina walked into a new school, not as a student, but as a youth counselor. In her office on the shelf sat a lock, old, rusted, broken open. Beside it, a photo of her and Mia. Laughing, a student knocked gently at her door. Miss Amina. I don't want to be here anymore, Amina smiled. You're in the right place. Sit down, we'll talk. Final line. Sometimes they lock you in because they're afraid of what you'll become if you ever get out. But the truth is, once you learn to fight in the dark, you shine too bright to ever be caged again. The end.